How's it going, Dopamon fans? The 2022 NHL entry draft is over. Thank you all so much for everybody who joined us for all of our mock drafts all year, who joined us for the live stream of round one. For those that have seen the scouting reports on the top skaters that I've done, we're going to mention them later in the video. And we are sorry for having not streamed rounds 2 through 7 on the second day. There were nationwide network outages across the whole country here in Canada. So that sucked and we couldn't do that, but we're happy to do a little draft recap for you.
Yeah, we finally got Rogers back here, internet. It's 11 p.m. on day 2 of the draft, July the 8th. So just now getting to round 2 and only found out a couple hours ago. And we did the most Canadian thing ever to try to find the results of the draft. We ran down the street to Tim Hortons to use their Wi-Fi so we can see the picks. But anyway, we'll get into it. All these draft picks here on the board. We're going to go through the full first round, and then we'll just go through a couple of the key players from second round and third round, and guys that slipped a little too far.
Yeah, and
that we thought.
Maybe some that were also reaches we thought.
Yeah.
And a little recap things, summarize things we thought, and that's it.
Yeah. If you want to see, if you're here to see video or scouting analysis on any of these players, we have a full 2-round mock draft on the channel where we go all into our scouting analysis, stats. There's a couple videos of certain guys for two full rounds of the mock draft. So go check out that video if that's what you're here for. Otherwise, the Montreal Canadiens.
With the first overall selection from TPS in the SM Liga in Finland, the Slovakian, Juraj Slafkovsky.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super, I don't know about surprising, because the closer it got to the draft,
the more
that we were hearing that Slafkovsky was going to be picked.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob McKenzie, whose list remains unimpeached for the last, I think, 15 years.
Yep, he's right.
He's always right.
Yep.
He had Slafkovsky first, and that was the thing that started all this a few weeks ago. You know, that like, oh, maybe he's not going to be picked first overall. But I mean, Shane Wright, we might end up getting Juraj Slafkovsky. Yeah, the Habs,
yeah,
I think are going to get a really good player. At the start of the year, I loved this player. You were a little lower on him. I had him in my top 5, and he just kept climbing all year. Great appearances at the Olympics, the World Championships against top competition in the men's groups and in Liga all year. Didn't have a crazy stat line in Liga, but he has all the skills.
Yeah, as you can see, 5 goals, 5 assists in 31 games. Wasn't that huge of an offensive year, but all the skills he shows it, especially internationally. And when he reaches the NHL and has to play in those big games, he's going to play really big for Montreal. And like he himself said, he's going to be a great fit on that first line with Suzuki and Caulfield. So
yeah, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Caulfield is terrifying. Do not want any part of that as a Leafs fan. Oh my goodness. And the New Jersey Devils at 2. We'll move on.
Following up with probably the greatest draft moment in Slovakian history, because until now, the highest drafted Slovakian was 3.
Yeah.
And now 1 and 2.
Marian Gaborik was 3, I think it was in 2000, and they beat it twice in one night, 2 Slovakians. Juraj plays out of Finland, but Simon Nemec plays at HK Nitra, Slovakian League, had 1 goal and 25 assists for them this year, played big minutes in a men's league. Slovakia, people think, KHL, Sweden, Finland, and then kind of discount all the other men's leagues. Slovakia is no joke. Like, there's the decent men's hockey in the pro level there. And, it's first defenseman off the board.
And personally, I had him ranked as the number 1 skater in the entire draft. So part of me is kind of surprised that New Jersey picked Nemec with Wright on the table. But at the same time, you need a D, you want to pick a D, he's the one to pick. And so in our mock draft, I had them taking Nemec, and I think it was the right choice, even with Wright and Cooley on the table.
Yeah, Wright and Cooley, I think, are definitely going to come out flying next year if they make their teams, especially Wright, who was shooting freaking death stares at the entirety of the Montreal Canadiens.
That was a beautiful sight to see.
That was amazing. Gotta love the fire in that kid. In Arizona, we'll move on. Number 3 selects Logan Cooley of the U.S. National Development Team program. 27 goals, 48 assists for 75 points in only 51 games. a lot of people actually had him number like 1 and 2. Like he was the one fighting with Slafkovsky and Wright and not Nemec, but ends up going 3. We talked about this during a live stream. It just felt like there was already a Logan Cooley jersey with Arizona.
Yep, absolutely. This is the least surprising pick in the entire draft. Everybody mock drafting made the selection, and even with Shane Wright still on the board, you kind of look at that and you're like, they're still going to take Cooley, right? Like, they've been sitting there all season or the past, like, month and a half, 2 months now, being like, okay, we're going to pick Cooley at 3. Like, that's just their mentality. I'm sure that they've been watching him, and they're like, yeah, we want him, and then might as well.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, screw it, we're going to keep him. And that means that the Seattle Kraken, who were picking at 4, got bumped by New Jersey, who won the lottery, moved up to 2, won that lottery spot, get bumped into Shane Wright at number 4. The projected number 1 pick for 2-3 years up until about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Drops all the way to 4 to Seattle. The underager in the OHL. Exceptional status player. 4th overall. It still blows my mind a little bit.
That's something we were talking about, is that these players haven't played since their mock draft rankings kind of changed around. Like, Shane Wright, it's not like Shane Wright came out and played bad and so he dropped. This is just postseason opinions kind of just up in the air and
they
still
all started
constantly
changing.
Shift. Right? And that's a guy, exceptional status. Everybody thinks he's 1st overall and just kind of falls to 4. This has never happened in at least my memory.
No, not a like definite 1st overall pick a few years before dropping in the last week. Like, we had Atu Ratu last year, who 3 years ago would have been considered maybe the number 2 pick, but all year he had
slowly fell.
He had slowly fallen.
Brad Lambert too,
Yeah, instead of just dropping at the last second all the way to 4. And it might not seem like a big of a drop, but for a guy like Wright, he based on his death stare to the Montreal Canadiens table.
And his comment, he made a comment. He said, I'm going to have a blue chip on my shoulder next year. Like, he came out and said, I'm pissed. I want to come out and prove I am the best player in this draft. And you know what? That is a really good mentality to have. And Seattle? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, please
Seattle
prove him right.
Backs into one of the best top 2 centers, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, in Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. Having them 1 and 2, I'm going to turn into a little bit of Seattle Kraken fan.
As well.
I'm not going to lie. I want to watch a couple of their games, especially with those 2 down the middle. If they run them 1-2, like I think they should right away. Matty Beniers had 9 points in 10 games at the end of last year, and if Shane Wright steps up, which I expect him to, into the NHL, could be an interesting, team over there the next few years.
Yeah, in hindsight, I feel like Slafkovsky, Cooley, Wright, all 3 of them could make the team.
Oh yeah, I think Nemec could too.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but yeah,
I think Nemec more than Cooley.
Okay,
funny enough.
I think Arizona's just so bad.
Yeah,
that okay, what are you gonna do? Not have the best player? He's already Logan Cooley's already the best.
He'll go play for Arizona State University.
Yes,
and
exactly.
They'll end up playing there anyway. They'll be like, oh, you're
I'm
here.
Used to the ice.
Oh. Philadelphia. Yeah, number 5. A little bit of a surprise, I think. Cutter Gauthier, U.S. national program, 2nd player out of there. 34 goals in 54 games. He's a shooter. He's a shooter. I had him mocked at 7 to initially the Ottawa Senators. They ended up trading that pick. We'll get to that.
I had him at 18 to Dallas. That's probably my, in the top 10, my biggest L.
Yeah, your biggest, riser, faller would be Cutter Gauthier for you. I had him in the top 10. I definitely see the potential with Cutter Gauthier. A lot of people were kind of very lukewarm on him. This is actually the pick. Philadelphia, you're wondering why Philly is here. This is actually part of the Adam Boquist for Seth Jones package trade.
Columbus.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
The next one. That's the 6th pick.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay, because we are going to talk about that pick now. The 6th pick.
The 6th pick.
Was actually part of the Adam Boquist Seth Jones trade.
I am tired, guys.
It has been a long draft. We did not get any internet.
It's been a long day with nothing to do in my apartment. 6th overall, David Juracek, This is the pick that was part of the Seth Jones trade along a year before with Cole Sillinger, and they also picked Alexei Hamasiami. Got a really good package for Seth Jones.
That was incredible.
Ends up with a really good package for Seth Jones, along with Adam Boqvist. David Juracek, Adam Boqvist, Cole Sillinger. This is a fucking steal for Columbus. Yeah, first Czech player out of the draft this year. Got injured at the World Juniors, had a big knee injury. So it kind of slowed him right down. But big player, booming slap shot, right-handed. That's probably why he's number 6.
Yeah. And he plays a weird style that we don't love. But I think that on a team like Columbus that has a very strict defensive game, and maybe paired with a guy like Zach Werenski, you can get the absolute best out of his weirder style of play, because it is effective. He can score. He put up a fair amount of points in the Czech league himself. That's a pro league. And I think that once he gets to that like top level in the NHL, we'll see on a good pairing, on a good team, that he can thrive.
Absolutely. Number 7.
Another trade.
Yeah, another trade. Need to talk about this trade. Mr. Sens fan.
You all owe Pierre Dorian an apology.
I do. I personally owe Pierre Dorian an apology. He fleeced Kyle Davidson of the of the Chicago Blackhawks.
The
incredible trade.
7th overall pick and the 39th in this year, as well as a 3rd in 2024, basically completely irrelevant, for Alex DeBrincat. 2-time 40-goal scorer. And last season he was 55 games or whatever. He had 30 goals, so that would have paced to way more than 40. So he's, on average, that's past 3 seasons he scored a pace of 40 goals or more, which
on a not very good Chicago team.
A very bad Chicago team. And Ottawa is a team that I feel like is able to take really good scorers and make them shit. So for DeBrincat to be able to score on a bad team, that's hope for Ottawa that he's going to score for them as well. I think this is a huge win because, of course, Chicago selecting Kevin Korchinski, which,
I thought it was a little bit of a reach.
It is a little bit of a reach. I think they could have taken him with their 13th pick.
Yeah.
And, we don't want to talk about losers, winners, because Korchinski hasn't played a single game yet. But as far as his projection for DeBrincat, take that any day as a Sens fan. That's an easy trade.
Yeah. Big points out of WHL for Korchinski, 61 assists. Only 4 goals, but 61 assists. I'd love to know the number of primary versus secondary assists for that. I don't have that stat with me. Curious whether that's inflated at any point. But
it's really hard to find that goal. In our 2022 mock draft, we have a goal for every single guy, and I think I have 2 of Korchinski's goals. It was really hard to find.
Hard to find, and there's not many. 8 for the Detroit Red Wings. This was their pick. They owned it. Picked the Austrian big center, Marco Kasper. I like this guy. I really do.
This is the right pick.
Yeah, this was the right pick, I think. This is very Steve Yzerman. This is a very Steve Yzerman pick. We had them both picking Brad Lambert here. Yeah. Just because we thought that was also maybe an Yzerman pick. But ends up going with Marco Kasper. He's 6'2", from Austria, like we said. He was playing in Sweden this year. Yeah. I was fine for Roga and had 7 goals in 46 games. So now in the pro league, was still able to produce a little bit, which is pretty good for 17.
And I think he's a bigger guy, and he knows how to use his size. And I think sometimes with young players who are big, you worry that they can dominate at their age group because of their size. And then when they translate to that pro men league, they kind of get sent back down to reality a little bit. But in his case, he was able to play pretty well at the SHL level and demonstrate, hey, my skills aren't just because, I'm physically developed. I have, a full hockey, I'm a complete hockey player, and Detroit needs that perfect fit.
Yeah, perfect fit, I think, great choice. Number 9 for Buffalo, Matthew Savoy, or Savoy, if you're French. Centerman out of Winnipeg Ice, had a 90-point season this year for Winnipeg in the WHL in 65 games. Not the first Winnipeg Ice center that we'll see. in this draft, but I think a pretty good fit for the Buffalo Sabres, who have kind of quietly become one of the best prospect systems in the NHL.
Absolutely.
In the last couple of years. Obviously, with the number 1 overall pick, helped them last year. No one power.
And the year before, or 2 years before.
2 years before
Rasmus
with
Dahlin.
Rasmus Dahlin. Yeah, but Peyton Krebs, who they got in a trade with Jack Eichel, or for Jack Eichel. Casey Middlestad, who's finally kind of come into his own. Dylan Cousins. There's a lot of players there. Jack Quinn from last year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players.
Yeah, and I feel like
that system now.
Savoy himself, you think, okay, he isn't himself like the most dynamic, but with all the pieces you see available in Buffalo, he's going to fit with them. Individually, he's not their savior, but he's going to be a part of, he's going to fit into, the prospect pool that they have. He's going to, I have a feeling he's going to play on the wing, top line, right wing. That's where he'll end up.
I think he has center potential.
Mm-hmm.
He was my number 2 ranked player at the start of the year in October.
Same. Oh my God.
So he's got all the potential to be a top line centerman or winger.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I think at 9 this is a steal.
Yeah, that's
this
a huge
is
steal.
Really
he could have been a
here
top 5 easily. There's an argument that Philly could have taken him. You're sitting there and but at 9, that's a huge win for Buffalo. Anaheim, this is a pick I predicted.
Yeah.
Anaheim needs offense, and you don't need to only get offense from your forwards. Pavel Mintyukov is one of the most high-risk, high-reward type offensive defensemen, and on the Saginaw Spirit team that he was on, they were awful. That he managed to score at almost a point per game pace on a shitty team really stands out. That his offense and his offensive production that's going to be exactly what Anaheim needs on their back end. I like this pick.
Yeah, I like this pick too. Pairs up, I think, matches well with Jamie Drysdale. I think those two could work well together. If not on the play with 5-on-5, but at least their top defensive. In their top 4, their pairings or whatever, the way they shake them down. I think those two work well on the same team. Arizona traded up for this pick. They had number 3, and they had a plethora of different picks in the late first, early second, and they packaged with San Jose. They packaged the 27th, 34th, and 45th picks to the San Jose Sharks to draft up for their 11th pick, and they end up taking Connor Geekie here, the other centerman for the Winnipeg Ice.
And I like Connor Geekie, but I think maybe just a little bit of a reach. I think the potential's there, but his draft stock was dropping a little bit. I think they could have maybe got him in the middle teens. I don't know if, that was the only pick available. I know San Jose, Mike Greer, new GM wants to make a splash at the draft, get, players that he wants for his team's future. But I don't know. I thought it's kind of a weird pick for me.
Yeah, I bet you they could have gone to Winnipeg and asked for the 14th pick.
Yeah,
and offered the same, a similar package, if not the same package, and still gotten, I don't know. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, I think Connor Geekie has a lot of really good tools. Yes. He didn't really put it together.
This year. That was it, right? He has the size,
good stats. He had 35 goals in 54 games. Not bad, but I think he could have been their best center, and he wasn't. It was Matthew Savoy. So the second best center on the team gets taken 11th.
That's
still pretty good.
Impressive.
12. Columbus. This is their pick. This is Denton Mateychuk. Another defenseman, another offensive guy. 13 goals, 51 assists in 65 games for the Moose Jaw Warriors in WHL. Another good offensive defenseman.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by this pick.
Second defenseman.
Yeah, right, because Columbus had already picked Juraj, but I feel like maybe they have their forward group set, in their minds, and they're like, what? It's time. We don't have as many D in our system anymore. I like this. I think it was a little bit of a shock, but I really like Denton Mateychuk. I think I had him at 11. You had him at 12.
Yeah, I had him in around here. I think I might have had him at 10 to Anaheim, and they took Mintyukov. Right. Yeah. So similar kind of. We had the right idea for a lot of these picks. It just kind of flipped around on our mock. 13. Now this is a pick is a little complicated. This was part of if you're not aware, the Montreal Canadiens sent 2 trades. First, they acquired this pick for Alex Romanov and a 4th-round pick to the New York Islanders, and then flipped it with the Chicago Blackhawks for Kirby Dach. So Chicago ended up with this pick, Montreal ended up with Dach, and the Islanders ended up with Romanov in a 4th.
Yeah, this is originally the Islanders, and then they wanted to get rid of it, and the Islanders get, for the 13th overall, Alexander Romanov, which I think was not enough.
Not enough.
Because that 13th pick, Montreal would trade for Kirby Dach. And Kirby Dach is way better than Alexander Romanov. I think that, I don't know, the Islanders maybe could have made that trade directly with Chicago and skipped Montreal as the middleman and maybe have gotten a lot more out of it, because this is kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, Lou Lamoriello got kind of fleeced, I think, here. He doesn't get fleeced often, but a couple times in the last few years with defensemen specifically. And Romanov obviously still young.
Yeah, he's
a good player. Maybe getting out of Montreal helps him. Better defensive system like New York, and maybe that's what Lou and the Islanders are betting on. But I think just value-wise, Dach for Romanov is kind of one-sided. But anyway, with the 13th pick, Chicago ended up taking Frank Nazar, or Nazar, I've heard it pronounced. U.S. National Team Development Program, is a center primarily. I see him kind of more
left wing.
As a left wing.
Yeah, he's played left wing internationally too, so he does both.
He's a forward.
Yeah,
and he's listed on Cap Friendly as a forward. And I get another U.S. National team player. Yeah, the Americans last few years just pumping out top prospects. That team, that system is really, really good. And
I love Frank Nazar, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think that he has, his game isn't like complete, but the puck skills that he has, when he's attacking the net and just how quick he is with the puck, quick hands, he might be the best at that in the entire draft. Just in his type of player, he's the best at, and there's no other player on that level. I think he's a 30-goal scorer in the NHL one day.
Yeah,
I really like this. Chicago, I think that I had him, Nazar, ranked at 9th. Because I think I'm pretty high on him, but
I've noted in my scouting reports, my notes here, that he is one of the highest ceilings in the draft, and he really does. He has probably one of the highest potentials for top center in this draft, especially at around this level.
And for a team that just gave up Alex DeBrincat, 40-goal scorer, a guy that I think could be a 30-goal scorer in Frank Nazar, that's a pretty good. They're going through a rebuild, and they're not thinking, okay, DeBrincat can score 40 next season, but in 5 years, Frank Nazar can score 30, and that's more important to us than scoring now.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see the comparison in 10 years, what Nazar and Kirby Dach do.
Yeah,
right. More so than DeBrincat. Number 14, Rucker McGroarty. And he was a little higher than I think a lot of people had him here. A lot of people had him in the 20s.
Yeah.
Some people had him falling whole ass out in the first round. Winnipeg takes him here at 14. Another U.S. guy, 35 goals, big power forward. He's committed to the University of Michigan next year, so we'll play at a really good University of Michigan team again. And, I think
we had Winnipeg in our mock draft taking Connor Geekie.
Yeah.
And I think that both Geekie and McGroarty, not in style, but just as players, have all the potential shows to be a 10 to 15th overall in the draft kind of pick, but there's just that consistency and putting it together every night, night in, night out, shift in, shift out, just isn't there. So it's really the potential. I think McGroarty, if he was able to show off his skills every night, then that's where he should go. And I think for Winnipeg, they say, okay, we see the potential in him. We'll take him there, and they're happy with that, because if they do get the best out of him, that's a good pick.
Yeah, why he was further down my board is he's not a very good skater right now.
Yeah.
His stride's a little janky. He's not very fast. He's got all the qualities to be a decent power forward winger, but needs to work on his skating. Otherwise, the potential is there. Could be one of the best goal scorers in this draft, especially at 14, the mid-rounds. Number 15 is a guy I do not like, and I've said this a bunch. I'm going to die on this hill. Jonathan Lekkerimäki out of Djurgårdens, part of that crazy Djurgårdens line. Vancouver Canucks selected him 15th overall, 7 goals in the SHL, but that's not where he put up most of his numbers.
Yeah, the J20 National League in Sweden is the top junior league, 20 goals in 26 games. That's he is a goal scorer, and at that J20 level, he produced a lot. I didn't love him as, like, I had him, I think, ranked around this spot, but I wasn't too huge on him just as, like, a one-dimensional scorer. I do think that the talent is absolutely there, but it's a little bit too one-dimensional for me.
Yeah, very, very one-dimensional. Doesn't play defense.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have the greatest skating ability either. Has a really good shot.
Yeah.
Very good shot, and very good in the offensive zone. Otherwise, is not very much of anything right now. Obviously, you could learn that, you could develop that, whatever. But right now, at 15, I think a little bit high.
Yeah. Pass him the puck in the offensive zone. He can stand there, just whatever. But like he's not. Other than that, yeah. And then
right after,
his teammate and line mate in the Djurgården system, Noah Ostlund, who played on the wing on the same line. I think he's a guy who transitioned better to the SHL than either of his line mates in that Djurgården system did. He, as a bottom 6, middle 6 kind of guy in the SHL, he did pretty well, and I thought he kind of showed. I really liked. I had him going to LA or something.
Yeah, I can't remember where we were, but I don't have a mock draft handy.
Yeah, I don't have a mock draft handy, but you like him more than I do.
No, that I like Ogren.
Oh, Ogren, I meant. Oh my god,
we're on Ostland.
I messed up.
Yeah, but again, they have actually have his J20 numbers, but they have Lekarimäki's SHL numbers.
I messed up. Noah Ostlund's a center. He's the playmaking center, not the winger. I'm thinking of Liam Ogren.
I was going to correct you, but
at 19, Liam Ogren. Pretend I was talking about that. Yeah, Noah Ostlund's a center. I liked Ostlund more.
Yes.
I thought his playmaking ability was probably best in the entire draft. As a center, too, I think that's a huge value. Buffalo's a team that's going to need a good playmaking center, and I think just a good fit.
Yep, and this was the first-round pick that they got from the Jack Eichel trade. Yeah. So this is where Vegas ended up. Would have picked 16th, but Buffalo selects Noah Ostlund. Nashville Predators take Joachim Kemmel, who fell way down to 17. We're in our he was fighting in our top 5 earlier in the year because he came out of the
third for
gate
me originally.
On fire. He had 15 goals in 39 games, and I think he had 12 of those goals in the first 10.
At one point he was leading the Liga, the Finnish top competition of hockey in Finland. He was leading the league as a 17-year-old in points and goals, which was insane. And a lot of it was scoring from just lower percentage areas. And then he gets injured, and when he gets back from injury, he isn't able to carry that hot streak, and we kind of see, okay, he has a lot of these skills, but that scoring rate he was on is just, completely unsustainable. Yeah. But I like him. I'm a little bit surprised he fell to 17 because that when you see him hot, damn.
Good.
He might be one of the best. I wouldn't say shooters, but ability to get the puck into the net. He sees where the puck needs to go and beat a goalie, and I like that about him.
Comparable in Nashville, if you're a Nashville fan, is Eli Tolvanen. Another big shooter. Tolvanen hasn't put it together yet, so maybe that's not a great comparison for Nashville fans. That's not what you want to hear. But to me, those two are very similar players. Finnish, so works out. Leon Bichelle, the big defenseman, goes 18 to Dallas. Snuck up the draft a little bit. I thought he'd be mid-20s to late 20s. Snuck up the draft here. Plays for Leksands. Isn't obviously a huge offensive guy. He's huge. He's a massive, I think he's 6'5".
Yeah, 6'4", 6'5".
6'6". He's listed as 6'6".
He's grown.
That must have gone up. That must have gone up. But big defenseman, left-hand shot, plays physical. He plays like that. I'm watching him in the World Juniors, the few games that we got. I think it was one game that I ended up watching for Switzerland, and he was a menace. Yeah. In his own age group, he was an absolute menace. So Dallas, who's a very good defensive team, if they can, the speed of the NHL might get to him early.
Yeah.
But if he can adjust to that, he may be a really, really good NHL defenseman.
And he played 29 games in the SHL. The scoring, the offense isn't there.
Yeah.
But defensively, it is. So you don't have to really be, he doesn't have to score a lot. He, looked very comfortable transitioning to pro hockey against men. So I have a good feeling in Dallas that even if he doesn't score, they've had some pretty good defensemen there too. So he'll thrive.
Think of Vessel Lindell.
Mm-hmm. That's
Right?
exactly what I was going to, thinking about. That left side strong in Dallas.
Here's Liam Ogren. Minnesota.
My bad.
19. The third part of that Djurgården's line. He's the winger. He's the scorer. 33 goals in 30 games in the junior J20 national system. Minnesota gets a great pick here.
Mm-hmm.
I was really hoping that he would fall to Toronto, and the rumor has it that when he was taken by Minnesota, that's when Toronto decided to trade their pick because they wanted him. I knew they would want him because he's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first round pick that Minnesota got from the LA Kings in the Brock Faber, Kevin Fiala deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
in our mock draft, I actually mocked that the LA would select Liam Ogren. And then they trade for, Minnesota gets the pick, and then they pick Liam Ogren. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so he's going at 19 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a cool one. Ivan Miroshnichenko to the
Miroshnichenko.
Washington Capitals.
If you would like to see more about Ivan Miroshnichenko, either in the description, somewhere around us, little bar, check out our channel. We have a scouting report for Ivan Miroshnichenko, who might be the best goal scorer, pure skill guy in the entire draft. Of course, shook the hockey world in March when news of his Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer diagnosis became public. But all the signs since has shown that his treatment has gone really, really, really well.
He was there last night.
And he's also been on the ice. The past month, we've seen him skating, getting the conditioning. I think he's going to be back, to near full, and I think the Washington Capitals, the steal of the draft. This is it.
Might have selected little OV Jr. here.
OV Jr. And I think Ovechkin's the perfect guy to help him transition to North America, to take his skills to make him productive at the NHL level. Ovechkin's going to, pass the torch off to Miroshnichenko. Congratulations, Washington Capitals. You have the next goal scorer to replace Ovi.
Yeah. Great pick here. Pittsburgh Penguins take Owen Pickering. Defenseman here. I initially had him mock draft to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up in Pittsburgh. I like this pick for them.
I do.
They don't have. We looked at it last night. They only picked
10 years.
It's been 10 years since they picked a defenseman in the first round.
Derek Pouliot.
It was Derek Pouliot and Oli Mata
Yep.
in the same draft. It's been a long time for Pens fans to have a good defensive prospect, and could replace a guy like maybe not in style, but Chris Letang's production in a few years. Being the defenseman of the future over there now.
Pickering's scary. I really like Owen Pickering.
He's big.
Yeah, I think he's going to dominate as a top 4 guy. Letang's on a 6-year deal, so I have a feeling that he's going to play, that Pickering and Letang are probably going to get paired, at least try.
They'll play together at some point.
Training camp, something in practice. Like, they'll have an opportunity to kind of pass that torch off to the next young D. And Pittsburgh needs it.
Yeah. 22, the Anaheim Ducks select Nathan Gaucher.
Much to the disappointment of every Montreal Canadiens fan.
Yeah, there were boos from the Habs fans when he was picked by Anaheim. Quebec Rampart center, 31 goals, 26 assists, 57 points in 66 games in the QMJHL this year. This was the pick Anaheim got, the first round pick in the Hampus Lindholm trade.
At the deadline.
Yeah, at the deadline. So this is what they got. I really, 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 really like this player. I would have had him picked probably in the early to mid-teens.
Mm-hmm.
That's how high I had him ranked. That's how I value him. He's a very good center. You know what you get with him. And he's going to be a really, really good, maybe number 2. But because Anaheim has very good center depth at prospects now, with Mason McTavish, Zegras, and now Gaucher, he might end up at 3. He might end up pushing one of them to the wing.
Yeah,
see.
lots of versatility this gives Anaheim for their forward core going forward. He can play any position in, the top 6, I think, one day. So,
but definitely. 23, St. Louis Blues select Jimmy Snookerroot, the U.S. National Team Development Program guy. 59 games, 24 goals, 39 assists. Pretty good.
This is a very non-St. Louis pick, in my opinion. I didn't see this one coming.
I think this is the one I predicted.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty sure.
Right, yeah, this is one of the ones that you had.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy Snookerwood.
Yeah. Yep. This is one of the only ones that I had gotten right. I felt he was a St. Louis pick. Value, that kind of high skill, good player.
I thought it was I kind of expected them to take a guy like Philip Bystad. Maybe a guy with a grit kind of guy, but I'm happy for them. I like him. He's quick, got good skills. I don't think he'll be a top to replace a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko.
I think he's more of a supportive kind of winger in the NHL. That's what he'll be trying. He'll be a good piece. He won't drive his line, but he'll be very good in St. Louis, who has a lot of good players still there. So,
but speaking of players who can drive offense on their line, at 24, the Minnesota Wild select Danila Yurov. Man, another scouting report we have for you on Danila Yurov. I compare him to Mitch Marner in his ability to, on the wing, carry the puck from his own zone up the ice. Again, 1v1, if there's space, find space. He drives offense from the defensive zone. Great north-south game. And he has the shooting skills, passing skills, playmaking skills, offensive sense. He's a really, really complete player. Minnesota fans, you have a guy who is going to be, at minimum, a scoring third-line winger, and the rest is up to him to figure out to get higher, because I think the offense potential is absolutely there. I think he's going to play on the wing with Kaprizov. That's like a Russian factor, that Kaprizov might help Yurov transition, the language, getting out of Russia, something like that. Yurov is a playmaker, plays wing, can play either side, which I think Kaprizov. That's
very similar. Yeah. And a guy that they also drafted that he might play really well with, Liam Ogren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be
a pretty scary combo in a few years, and they're going to need cheap prospects in the next 2-3 years with those buyouts on the books. 25. This was the Leafs pick, and they ended up trading this pick and Peter Mrazek's contract. As well as Peter Mrazek.
Yeah, not just
I say that like it was just a contract. No, Peter Mrazek and the first for the 38th pick. And they pick, and I think another reach here.
A huge reach. I don't know why they made this choice when they did, where they did. Chicago split, they made sure that they had a bunch of picks. And I thought it was to have these high picks, and then so when the best guy falls to you, you can take him.
Yeah.
Not to. Why would you reach? Why would you go this high to reach? And they gave up a lot in this draft, and they lost Doc, they lost Brinkett, and I think to reach in guys is a little bit weird for me.
Yeah, very strange approach. There are a lot of defensemen they could have taken instead of Sam Rizal. The Chaska High School is where he played last year, so generally a guy like that'll fall into the second or third round, where they had more picks, but they decided to take him here at 25.
And Rinzel, he's an offensive guy. He produces a lot of offense, but his transition from the Minnesota State High School hockey system to the USHL, he was able to score at the USHL, but just not enough. He wasn't able to translate that offense defensively. I thought he was a little bit of a miss. So, yeah, I see the potential and why Chicago is drafting for potential here, but as far as draft stock, it's a little bit of a waste of that high of a pick, I think.
I think so. Montreal had a really fun day, taking another Slovak here. This was initially Calgary's pick. This is part of the Tyler Toffoli trade that they got Philip Massar. It was a really cool moment there at the draft when Slafkovsky and Massar and Nemec all kind of got into a little hugging at the end, and two of them had Montreal Canadiens jerseys on.
I think
so that's really cool.
Massar and Slafkovsky have been friends since childhood. I believe, is what I had read. And so, like, they have known each other, and this is, is a big moment for them. They'll probably, they're going to play at some point on some line, and, whether probably in practice, who knows at the NHL level, but this is really good to have another guy in the system that you're familiar with.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Massar fell to him. I think that he fell a little bit in this draft. I think he probably would have gone in the teens somewhere. He has the skill, the upper level skill set to be a top pick, and he drops all the way to 26. And I think he just fell into Montreal's lap, and they went, "Hey, he's here. He's Slovakian. We just drafted Slafkovsky. Right? They're buddies. Let's take him."
And he can play center. I think that's going to be valuable for Montreal. And I think maybe a little bit, we talk about a guy like Rutger McGroarty, who I think kind of has, like Philip Mazar, at times he shows he can be a top 15 pick, but at times he shows maybe falling out of the first round. And so, like, I see why he's in that range, but I think he could have gotten higher. Why he fell to Montreal, I think Europe factor kind of plays a little bit compared to a guy like Rutger McGroarty, who, being in North America, you get a little bit more attention. So I think being and just playing overseas might have had that just a little bit of effect on him.
San Jose Sharks. This was the first pick from that package of picks that they got from Arizona. They picked Philip Bystedt here. I think is a great pick at 27, especially when you have a bunch of picks really close together here. Good to take a flyer on a guy like this. He had 16 goals, 33 assists in 40 games in the J20 Linkoping system in the SHL. Is a big power forward center. He's 6'4". He has all the tools. I have him mocked in my second round. He has all the tools to be a really, really good centerman. Didn't put the strength game together down this year. Had the stats. Played well. Didn't quite have the strength. I think that largely has to do with the fact that he's 6'4" at 17.
It's filling into your body is very hard when you're a teenager.
He's gonna put on strength and weight and be very, very strong and big and good, I think, for the San Jose Sharks, who I think are finally accepting the rebuild. I think this is the first year they've okay, new GM, we're gonna have a new coach. They fired everybody. I think they're now going to finally accept the rebuild and maybe fail a little bit for Connor Bedard.
Yeah, of course, that 11th overall that went to Arizona was the only pick they had in the first two rounds. So instead of picking one guy, they got 3 picks in the 27 to 45 range. So
great trade.
3 picks in 18 selections. That's incredible.
For Mike Greer, really brand new GM. Great to pull that trigger right away. Buffalo Sabres, another pick here. Juraj Kulik. 49 games in Czech League, had 14 points. Not bad. Centerman, generally. You see him more as a winger, I know.
I think internationally, I've seen him play on the wing, too, and kind of just use his skill and, shooting ability, stronger one-timer. And I think I think he could, maybe when he reaches the NHL, he might just become a middle six winger, but maybe third-line center option. At times, I've seen Juraj Kulik earning this spot in the mid-late 20s, but I don't know. I'm not huge on Kulik's top 6 potential. Personally, I only see third line, so I am a little bit, there are other guys, a guy like Philip Bystedt before him who has a little bit more of a hit or miss kind of thing. I think that if Bystedt's potential is just way higher than Juraj Kulik. So
yeah, I think I had Kulik. I like him. I think I had him compared to
Cirelli.
Anthony Cirelli of Tampa Bay, and I initially had him mocked. I think
to Tampa Bay.
You did, but he was a little bit higher. Buffalo again adds really good center depth. And
we both had Juraj Kulik going to Tampa. I think we both. It was that's a good fit.
Yeah. This pick was the first round pick that they got from Florida in the Sam Reinhart trade, and good pick here.
Buffalo, another team also able to maybe make that kind of reach on a guy like Kulik, who, who is he, isn't he? Because they have so many picks, they can say, yeah, we'll take him. Even if he doesn't reach his full potential, you get an NHL player, you can be happy with that.
Maverick Lamoureux. Arizona Coyotes. He's 6'7".
This kid is big.
He's 6'7", 198 pounds right now. He's going to put a little bit of weight. He's only 18. And he shoots right-handed, and he's a defenseman. Just based on his body type,
Yeah, no, just physically, he has the potential.
No other scouting.
Yeah.
Oh, you can skate and are 6'7"? I'm gonna take a look at
Here's
this
a
kid.
stick.
Here's a stick. Go have fun. Had 24 points and 4 goals in the QMJHL for Drummondville this year. Is an interesting player. And
He was expected to rise and play a lot better than he did. He wasn't. He is able to use his physicality and his reach and his size, but I think there's some strength that needs to be added to it to both ends of the ice, and he's just not a complete player yet. I had him personally going to Montreal at 62 because I thought there's the size you want to I think he can go higher, but the potential is a little scary for me.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a wild card. But if you're Arizona
with this many picks,
why not? Why not take a chance on a guy like this?
Speaking of taking a chance on a guy like this, Bradley Lambert. Whew.
Finally, falls and comes down hard at 30, falling all the way from probably number 2 a couple years ago, all the way to 30th in the first round. I was praying that he was going to drop to Toronto at 38. He does not. Winnipeg Jets get him. Mediocre stats for the Pelicans.
Very, 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 very mediocre. But do you know who else had a mediocre stats on the Pelicans? The entire team. The Pelicans were awful. They're one of the least offensively productive teams. You give them the puck, they did nothing with it. Brad Lambert on that team was able to I thought if you watch his game, the stats aren't there, the production isn't there. Because the team sucked around him. He was doing a lot by himself in the second half of the season. I thought he did a lot better. But because he was already dropping in the first half of the season, scouts just weren't willing to give him the time of day and said, oh, well, he didn't start scoring, so we're not going to take him. And I'm with you. I love Brad Lambert. I think that he could have gone way higher. I think he's going to be a second-line center in the NHL for the Winnipeg Jets now.
Great pick.
Yeah.
Great pick here. Yeah. They stop the slide, and I think they get a steal. I really do. This is a first-round pick that they got in the Andrew Kopp trade.
Yeah.
At the trade deadline. So end up with, I think, a really, really good pick.
This is a very fair trade. I think it's a really great trade for the both of them, for both teams, because Kopp really stood out in the playoffs, and now Winnipeg gets pretty good value.
Going into this draft, I was not a huge fan of Isaac Howard's game.
Neither was I.
After the draft, he's probably one of my favorite players.
Yes. Personality-wise, as a human being, Isaac Howard might be the coolest hockey player ever.
He's up there.
Yeah.
I don't know how to misquote him, so maybe I'll find the quote. But he shows up in this white jacket, kind of Miami Vice style, ends up going to Tampa Bay, looking good, and he ends up saying I'm the best looking guy at this draft, so I might as well have been the best dressed. He says that in an interview. That was his interview quote from Isaac Howard, and I'm like,
damn,
thanks. That's a guy I want. That's a guy I want. Yeah. 33 goals and 82 points in the U.S. National Team Development Program this year.
You can teach a guy how to skate.
Yeah.
You can teach a guy how to shoot. You cannot teach swagger.
No.
That's something you're born with.
Yeah, that's something that's you just have. And Tampa Bay always finds a way to make these players, very good draft system, very good at bringing players up into their lineup, giving them a shot. Isaac Howard, I think, is going to be a very good player.
Getting the best out of middle six guys.
Yeah, getting the best out of the guys that may not have the highest potential.
Like you mentioned earlier, Sorelli, turning him into the best third-line center in the entire league.
Yeah, Chernak as well. Not a very fleet of foot defenseman.
Yeah, now they got him.
He's one of the best defensemen in the league.
Even I think Killorn.
Kucherov, Palat, the list goes
would
on.
Killorn have been what he is on any other team? I don't think so.
Maybe.
And I think Isaac Howard, they're going to get the best out of him in Tampa.
Here's the biggest L. The last pick in the first round, Edmonton Oilers select Reed Schaefer from the Seattle Thunderbirds and WHL. Not bad stats, but where did you have him ranked on your personal list?
I had, in my midterm rankings, the way I had it, he felt just outside of my top 160. He did in my list of best WHL players, he was the first guy outside my list after Reed Dick, the goaltender.
Yeah.
So he wasn't on my list at all. For serious draft potential. You know, obviously guys I thought in the 4th to 7 rounds, it's always a toss up. Players who you don't think are going to get drafted sometimes do, but to go at 32nd overall, this is the biggest reach.
This is also Edmonton's like only pick.
Yeah.
At this point in the draft. And I can't remember if they obviously
No, it was the only one.
Okay, it was the only one. Because we only reacted briefly to number 2. We don't know about trades because the Rogers outage. But yeah, their only pick, and they've picked it. They used their only pick in the first 5 rounds to take Reed Schaefer, a risky guy to take, and they must really like him. They must see something.
We talked about
I don't
in the mock draft making a safe pick.
Yeah,
like my like headcanon armchair GM was Edmonton splits their 29th. Was 22. Yeah, and then became now 32 into 2 seconds to pick 2 reliable guys. I had Vladimir Grudinin, who fell to the 5th round, and then Paravolov, who fell to the 3rd. Both of them they could have gotten. This is a huge waste. They're a team. They just, they need talent right now. They're going to be for the next few years fighting to keep that we're a cup contending team position. They might fall again and be the shitty Edmonton Oilers. They might rise and be a cup contending team. And when you look back at this draft, if they suck, you look at that, then this pick and say, wow, why did they do that? This is terrible general managing. This is terrible asset management for your own picks that we needed players, and then you took a risk instead of getting us like roster pieces or something. And I just, nothing personally against Reed Schaefer, but to the Edmonton Oilers, I think this is a big mistake.
Yeah, big mistake here, I think. Big L. This pick, as far as trade goes, has been all around the board. Initially was Colorado's pick, obviously, is the 32nd pick. It was a part of the Darcy Kemper trade that sent Connor Timmins a 3rd and this pick, and then was flipped from Arizona to Edmonton as part of the Zach Cassian trade, which, again, I think another little bit of a weird trade.
Yeah,
as far as the comparables, also with a 2024-25 pick package as well. Edmonton ends up with this trade at the end, or with this pick at the end of the day, and yeah, that's it for the first round.
That was the first round.
We'll only pick out a few names. We won't throw out every single player from round 2 to 7. We'll start with Owen Beck, because the first pick he's Montreal's pick here. I like Owen Beck. You don't. Not as much.
I like Owen Beck. I just don't project to anything top 6, so I'm very, very reluctant to pick him before 45.
Yeah.
After 45, I'm like, bottom 6 guys, sure, but there's a lot more potential I see in some other guys, so I don't. Great grinder, third line, energy, commitment every shift, just doesn't have like the elite offensive skills, so I just
I just wouldn't have picked him where they picked him.
Yeah.
Is what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you have picked a guy like Jaeger Furcus, 35?
That is
Seattle,
a pick.
Over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. Like Seattle has had gifts just land on their lap. Like, do you think that they came into today at 4th overall or yesterday thinking we're gonna get Shane Wright? No. And Jacker Furcus is a guy that had been rising up. He got better throughout the season, and you kind of expect him to keep getting better. Those are positive signs, and he dropped a lot. This is a guy people had him in their top 20. I had him at 23, 25 to Toronto. I like Jagger Furcus. I think this is great for Seattle at 35.
Yeah, I think it's a steal here, too. I had him in the first round.
And then right after.
Probably. Explain your grievance here with Artyom Duda.
Artyom Duda is an offensive defenseman. In the offensive zone at the blue line, he has a rocket of a slap shot.
Yeah, he had 14 goals in NHL this year. It's pretty good.
That's it. That's his game. Defensively, slow. He's not bad, but he's not. There's nothing special about him in any sense defensively. And on the breakout, I hate this so much. He does the exact same move every time. He bounces the puck the exact same way off the boards, and it's so beyond predictable. Awful, terrible sense to break out. Like, you can't, been like, as an offensive D, you hope that they can move the puck. And he's just a one-touch pass kind of guy, too. It's on his stick, he flings it off the boards, and then it's an icing, or the other team gets it and it's a turnover. He doesn't think with the puck. He doesn't keep it on his stick and only touches it for a second. And in the offensive zone on a one-time slap shot, and only needs to touch your stick for a second. But in the defensive zone, when you need to carry the puck, you're behind your own net, he just doesn't have it. And lots of Russian scouts had Duda falling out of the draft.
Yeah.
And
they take him here.
And this is the second year in a row where early in the second round, Arizona has dipped really deep into Russia. Last year's Ilya Fedotov.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that name.
Fedotov.
Yeah. Big guy, but even in this year, he didn't like improve his total. It's just Arizona has done terrible drafting out of Russia the past few years, and just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Air out your grievances.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll move on. 38, the Toronto Maple Leafs, their first pick, Fraser Minton. And I'm gonna do a whole video on what Toronto the different players Toronto took, because they ended up with quite a few draft picks at the end of the day here. But yeah, Kamloops Blazer, centerman, I believe.
Winger,
I think played center.
Plays best on. I watched him play a lot of wing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I watched him play center too. 20 goals, 55 points, 67 games. Not the most offensive guy in the world, but brings a physicality to his game that I think Toronto would really like.
You know, I think he does bring an underrated offensive game. In the first half of the season, he didn't score. He was a bottom six tough guy winger. He was supposed to just grind out the games, hurt some. At his age, he's so much bigger than a lot of the other juniors. Use your physicality to help win games. And then halfway through the season, something clicks in his game and he starts scoring, and these hands that he's used for like roughing up are suddenly these silky smooth hands. And I like that he can use skill and physicality to dominate. It's not just him using his physicality. He, has an elite offensive skill now, and I think that this is an incredible pick for Toronto.
Yeah,
this is the new fan favorite for Toronto fans. This is going to be the guy that you love for the rest, like the next 15 years. You're like, yeah, he's my favorite player. Energy guy, yeah, I want him playing with Matthews, and this is it.
Nice.
This is a good pick.
Nice, I like that. As a Leafs fan, excited.
Splashy and exciting.
Flashy and excited. The first goalie, we'll stop at Buffalo briefly. The first goalie taken, Topias Leinonen, out of JYP Finnish system, had a .916 save percentage in 21 games. A lot higher than I thought that we'd see a goalie picked. I didn't think we'd see a goalie picked until maybe like the 70s or the 80s.
Yeah.
But and especially because Buffalo has like one of the top Finnish goalie prospects in the world right now.
They do have a
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a little bit surprising that Buffalo ends up with a goalie here, but I guess, maybe they just have, I know they have a very small goalie system right now.
Yeah.
Craig Anderson is their starter.
Very small scouting department, too.
They do. But yeah, I just expected not a goalie here. But yeah, first goalie picked. What do you know?
I think that, they're another team with a bunch of picks. Maybe they think, okay, he's the goalie that we like. They see, their goalie scouts, they see something in him. We'll just take the risk. And I get it for a goalie that it's not often no goalies at all are picked. Second round, it's time to take some chances. But yeah, specifically to Topias Leinonen, I didn't see anything in particular where I'm screaming for him to be the number one goalie in this year's draft. So him rising this, yeah, but
there were no definitive number one guys, so it could have been a few people.
It could have been anybody, but I don't know. Yeah, same at 41, it is a little bit high, but I suppose so. They do need, no bad time to add goaltenders.
Yeah, exactly. We'll stop here at 43. Julian Lutz gets picked.
Yeah, he was a guy who played really well at Hlinka for Germany, and then did not start the season in the DEL. Yeah. And it wasn't until like mid-February, and it was an completely undisclosed injury. We didn't really know anything about it. I'm guessing that NHL scouts and teams, when they do their interviews, they do have access to that kind of information. so they know. But when he came back to the DEL, he played fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. Came back and he was just didn't miss a step, and that's really like
kind of remarkable
to miss. He missed from August he stopped playing until February. That's like you're skipping 6 months of not playing hockey with an injury and to just come into the pro German league. And that's a positive sign. I think early in the season he was seen as like a fringe, like 32nd overall. Like he could be a late first round pick.
If he had played all year,
absolutely,
he might have been a first round pick.
He would have replaced Reed Schaefer for Edmonton kind of thing.
Somebody. Yeah. Right away, 44, Luca Del Bel Blues gets picked for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Mississauga Steelhead, OHL, local boy for me, 76 points in 68 games. You saw him live.
I got to see him live, and lots of skill, but when the puck isn't on his stick, when he isn't making a pass in the offensive zone, his game is kind of just at nothing. One of the better playmakers in this draft, and not just in like he reads plays really well. He doesn't make stupid passes in front of it, and that he's not throwing the puck around. He sees, he makes room, and he makes really crisp passes in the slot, but other than that, it's not that great, especially for a guy who's a little bit bigger, 6'1" or 6'2".
He's a little tall.
He's taller, but he doesn't play big, and that's a huge problem. That'll stop you from getting anywhere in the NHL level. So.
He had a great showing in the prospects game. Kind of, I think he gave him a little bit of name recognition.
It definitely did.
Other than the fact that his name is recognizable.
Yes,
a little bit of name recognition from the prospects game there, and that same game. Few picks later is Hunter Haidt. And stop me if I'm skipping anyone you want to talk about.
No.
But Hunter Haidt, Barry Colts, another center. Similar kind of game.
I loved Hunter Haidt.
Yeah.
I watched Barry play Mississauga, so I got to see Luca Del Bel Blues versus Hunter Haidt. Hunter Haidt has what Luca Del Bel Blues is missing. He's got like that drive and that energy. The puck's on it. He's making stuff happen, and I feel like I think he's really underrated in this draft. When I watching him play, I had him go up from third round. I'm like, he's early second for me immediately within like 10 seconds of watching him play in his first shift. I've really, really, really liked Hunter Haidt.
I have a question as a scout. Hunter Haidt, Del Bel Blues, Owen Beck. They're all, for me, kind of all cut from the same kind of they're centers, relatively the same size,
the OHL,
similar games, OHL. Order them for me. What would you pick them at?
You had it. Hunter Haidt, Luca Del Bel Blues, Owen Beck.
Okay.
And
so
I
the
think
reverse
that,
order of what they were picked.
Exactly. And I think that, I can go back. There's also on this list of centers, you get Paul Ludwinski, Matthew Poitras, Danny Zilkin, Pano Fimis. A lot of centers coming out of the OHL this year. Is really hard to rank them. They're all really good, right? Like it's when you look at all these top centers out of the OHL, they're all in like the same kind of like
they're all in the same
skill
bubble.
grouping,
That's why I grouped those three together.
They're all different, but they're all like in the same grouping. So that's why the second round's such a crapshoot.
Yeah, and we'll skip all the way down to the guy that my future next jersey, Dmitry Buchelnikov of the Detroit Red Wings, 52nd overall, second round pick.
I'm gonna cry.
Friend of the channel.
I'm gonna cry.
Friend of the channel, Dmitry Buchelnikov.
Above ager. Out of the SK 1946 system in Russia. He is fast.
Really good skater.
Really fast. And I, for the 2021 draft, last year's draft, where he was first year draft eligible, I made a scouting report for him. You can probably go find it on the channel. A bunch of other people already have. It's gotten a lot of views right now. Wow. He ended up finding that video, commenting on it with a heart and a little muscle emoji because I said he was a little bit of a weaker player physically.
Yeah. And he didn't end up getting drafted.
He didn't end up getting drafted.
Maybe he took it to heart.
And you know what? I think he did a little bit because he went from being small and fast to being average-sized and fast.
Yeah.
Which
he grew up a year.
He grew,
right?
And he definitely looks more like a full-sized adult now. Before he was 5'9", he was really tiny on the ice.
Little too. Yeah, he was like 142 pounds.
I know you hate the word, but it diminutive. He let his size affect him, and now he's definitely upped his game. A little bit of lacking physicality still, but the speed.
That's not his game though.
No, it's speed up the wing.
Yeah,
Reminds me of
41 goals.
Ilya Mikheyev.
Ilya Mikheyev, yeah.
Ilya
Maybe not
Mikheyev.
as fast. Close.
Can be.
He could be.
That's why I think he a guy who's super fast, and if you teach him how to use his speed to score, bam. And Detroit could do that.
Yeah. Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit.
Good job.
Good job, Detroit.
Good job,
Yeah.
Detroit. Round of applause. Round of applause to the Detroit Red Wings scouting staff. Taking Dmitry Bichalnikov. I had him in my mock draft in the second round.
You
and
did.
You were like, that's
I
insane.
thought that was crazy.
Right?
And
I'm like, nope.
I gotta admit, there are, I'm not gonna say better, but there is a very fair above age draft class in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Bichalnikov got injured in the playoffs, dropped his draft ranking. Amazing scouting by Detroit.
Yeah, great job by them.
Mm-hmm.
My next jersey will be a Detroit Red Wings Dmitry Bichalnikov jersey in a few years. We'll drop down a few spots here. Let's talk about Matt Poitras real quick.
We mentioned earlier OHL centers.
Yeah.
Matthew Poitras. Even later on the list, you see David Goyette. Another huge mix. We like Poitras, but not in the second round. I think this is just a little bit of a reach.
Yeah, they could have picked the better center out of Guelph. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't go until a little bit later. But they take Matthew Poitras here, and good player, right?
Good skater.
But
Great
good skater. Just didn't have much in the way of offensive creativity or puck skills.
Pure skating.
Yeah,
really good
really
fundamentals. Good all the base whatever, but he did 1v1 against defenders. He didn't make anything. No. It was just good skating. Good framework to build around, but there's a lot of speed in the draft. We just talked about Dmitry Bichalnikov, who didn't get drafted in his draft year, and he's just a really great skater. So, I don't know. I think it was just a little bit of a reach.
A little bit of a reach, for sure. A guy who was really highly touted at the start of the year goes next. Elias Salamonson, the Winnipeg Jets, desperate for defensive help in the future, especially at the prospect level. I don't like this player at all. He's very lazy.
Yeah.
And for a defenseman, that's not what you want.
No.
So, I hate to use the word lazy in hockey.
No, but he is.
But he's lazy.
Yeah.
He's kind of aloof in his own zone at times. Doesn't look like he's really that engaged.
And it sucks because he has
a lot of skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Winnipeg is maybe just banking on the fact that they can teach him their systems properly, and he ends up picking it up in a few years and going.
Light a little bit of a fire under his ass.
Yeah.
And if you can get that consistency, he's a good player, but mentality is really hard to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe sometimes, as a scout, an independent scout like we are, we don't get to do what NHL teams do and have draft interviews.
Yeah.
They might have talked to him and said, this is what our concern is in your game. What do you do to overcome laziness? Or if we draft you, are you going to step up your game? And maybe they liked his response. But yeah, I'm with you on. I had him ranked in the second round. I had him. I think I had him a little bit higher.
Start of the year, I think he was 14th for me.
Same for me. He was really
pretty high, and ends up dropping here. Yeah. Won't go too much into him, but Rieger Lawrence.
I love Rieger Lawrence.
AJHL player, kind of gets overlooked as a league, the BCHL and the AJHL and Manitoba leagues and all that. Played great in there. Could have played in the WHL, I'm assuming.
I'm surprised he didn't.
Plays for the Okotoks Oilers, which, if you don't know, is kind of the biggest junior team out there. As an AJHL team. Not even, junior team as in all of
juniors in Canada.
They are the biggest. Their fan base is ginormous. The franchise is really, really successful. Plays for them. And Minnesota gets another really good pick here. Minnesota.
It's only 20 minutes south of Calgary. I think it's pretty easy as a fan base for the Calgary area to love the team too.
Yep.
And Rieger Lawrence, I found him at the very beginning of the year, and I had him in this area in the middle of the second round. I love his game. Power forward by all definitions. I think a little bit of speed and pacing, but the way he reads the game in all three zones, he will steal the puck in the defensive zone and carry it to the offensive zone, drives the play down the middle. He'll be a great center. I see him as a second-line center personally. I think maybe as a third-line center.
Yeah, I think he's more of a third-line kind of energy guy, but not because he's not good enough.
Yeah.
But because I just in my the way my depth chart would probably work would just put him there because it would fit better. Anyway, whatever.
But like middle six,
six,
easy. Yeah. So I like him. I really like him.
Skipping a few people. The man, the myth, the Gleb. Trykazov. 60 to Carolina. Ends up getting a pretty good pick here at 60. I had him in my first round. I knew in the back of my head, okay, he's probably going to slip out of the first round. Let's be real. But has a lot of skill. You have a report on him.
I do. If you want to learn more about Gleb Trykazov, the man, the myth, the Gleb, go check it out on the channel. I think Gleb, we both think, I mean, it's hard to say he doesn't. As far as puck control, damn. Yeah. Skating, damn. Decision making, damn. Oh,
very.
Oh my god. And this is probably like the biggest difference among any skater in the draft between where you find him on rankings and then like rankings and then mock draft, because I've seen him top 10.
Yeah, so
4th overall, 6th overall, but who had him at 9th?
Bob? Craig Button.
Craig Button. Yeah, Craig Button had him. Oh my god. And no,
not that high.
He was unable to produce at the VHL, which is like the Russian minor pro league, against men, where a guy like Ivan Miroshnichenko, drafted at 20, despite having cancer, was able to produce. And that the deficits in Gleb's game is what stopped him from reaching that level. Skill's there, but the mental side of it is just, it's too much. It becomes too overwhelming, and that was my limit on his potential. But for Carolina
has a knack of turning
second line winger.
Yeah,
like easy in Carolina. And also watch out for Carolina, because this is not the first Russian player they draft. I mean,
you're not wrong. They do scout.
They do. Yeah, they do also scout.
And rounding out the second round for the country of Slovakia, kind of gets lost in the whole Slovakian top prospects. Adam Sikora, good pick here, I think, but from New York, who don't have a lot of picks in this draft. And yeah, 10 goals for Slovakian HK Nitra. Plays with Nemec.
Yeah,
sorry.
same team.
Same team as Simon Nemec. Slovakia, man. Yeah. Slovakia is going to be really, really good in a couple of years, I'm telling you. I think is a great pick here from New York, just to round out the Slovakian contingent.
I think I think he's a great energy guy. When I saw him play at the World Juniors, he looked really like, he dropped in my rankings from like 3rd round to 4th, 5th round, and then in the second half of the season, I think he really stepped up his game, especially at the Slovakian pros, the elite. So rises a little bit for me, but I didn't have him in my second round. I still see him as a bottom 6 winger. You did. You had him. I think you had him here.
I was close.
You had him 62 to Montreal or something.
I had him 56.
56 to Minnesota.
So I had him in and around this range. But
which is fair given the hype surrounding him. I definitely think there's a lot of attention on him, especially as a Slovakian.
And again, Minnesota took Rieger Lawrence, so forward. I was right, kind of.
Yeah, you get the.
I get half points. To round out the second round here, I think is a great pick here from New York Islanders and Kale, because he's Swedish. Kale, because he's Swedish, and not Kale, because he's not Canadian.
Yeah.
Odelius.
He'll be called Kale.
He'll be called Kale. Yeah, Odelius, great defensive defenseman. Not flashy. I think the perfect fit for the Islanders system and what they generally like to do. Obviously, Barry Trotz isn't there anymore, but they're still a very defensive team. And I think Kale Odelius, I said in my rankings video, at best, he could be the next Jacob Slavin. And at worst, he's going to be a bottom pairing guy that doesn't hurt you. He's a good player. I think a really safe pick here at the bottom of the second round for the Islanders. And I think because he fits in so well, that's why they took him.
And I think historically, the 60s in the draft is where questionable defensive defensemen kind of go. last year at 67, Stanislav Svozil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a guy that, like us, fringe end of the first round was projected.
Yep.
And then goes at 67. Like, when you're a defensive defenseman,
Kind of slip a little.
It always happens, which is why I think it can be very random deciding, like a guy like Liam Bichelle, who goes like a little bit higher, and he's just a like there's sometimes a little bit of a weird thing for defensive defensemen that they can just slip, even if they deserve to be a little bit higher, and I think Kaladelius definitely does.
You talk about next year. We talk about Ty Nelson briefly. Slipped in our rankings quite a bit.
In everybody's.
Didn't really see the skating from him. He's a tiny dude. Small defensemen don't generally work in the NHL. You can be a small forward. Can't be a small defenseman that can't skate. You can be either one, but you can't be both. 51 points, though, in the OHL, so a little bit of offensive upside. If they can teach him how to skate better, be a little bit faster, quicker reaction time, all that kind of stuff. Could be a kind of a sneaky pick here from Seattle.
And I think for them, that when Ty Nelson kind of fell to them, another pick that they kind of said, okay, like he's the best on the board now, that there's definitely some offensive upside there. They've taken some really good picks already in the draft. They can kind of pick, that high risk, high reward kind of offensive D. I'm not too huge on Ty Nelson either, but I'm big on this this pick for them.
I think this works for Seattle. Alexander Paravalov.
I mentioned at 60, keep your eyes open for Carolina selecting Russians, and 11 picks later, from local Yaroslav, my favorite team out of Russia, Alexander Paravalov, my favorite forward out of Russia. I love him. I love the way he reads the ice, and it's constantly just putting himself in the position to recover the puck, for it to bounce on his stick, to get a takeaway, poke the puck. He's always just putting himself in the right spot and using his skating and physicality to get him there. Sometimes the top end skill just isn't there. I think the puck control in tight areas isn't as great, but the way he scores by just putting himself in the slot, getting rebounds, for him to score, his style of game doesn't require him to do that kind of super elite skill dangling guys. He doesn't have to show off like that. It's about the energy and the hard work, and he never slumps. He never went more than 2 games without scoring. I love him. I love the effort. I love the commitment, and that's why he's my favorite.
Yeah, it's great. Montreal at 75. Vinzenz Rohrer.
And we skipped a Russian. I did make a scouting report for Alexander Paravalov. Please go check it out.
Yes.
After that, Victor Nushev, I did not make a report for him, just like I didn't make a report for Artem Duda. Amazing puck handler. He's a guy that on a lot of lists, just like Gleb, kind of really late towards the draft here, kind of slipped up into people's top 20, but
snuck in.
I don't see it.
You don't see it?
I don't see it. Lots of puck skills, but I don't know. About the actual NHL potential. But yeah, Vinzenz Rohrer.
Yeah, Vinzenz Rohrer. Montreal Canadiens pick here now. We were talking about him before, where he was part of the Austrian junior team. And we watched, I think it was Austria-Canada.
11-2 loss to Canada for Austria.
Yeah, and the best player on Austria that we were watching it, not together, but at the same time, like everyone else in Canada, was the best player on the ice.
Absolutely. He was better than Marco Kasper.
Yeah.
I thought Marco Kasper in the World Juniors underperformed. I was like, wow, I was supposed to be way high on this kid, and then he didn't. And I don't want to... He didn't drop in my mock rankings. He won competition, but...
Yeah, one game of one tournament is
I don't
not
let that one game drop you, but I will let one game rise a player. Vinzenz Rohrer in an 11-2 loss, he was strong forechecking, strong back-checking in his own zone. He was poised. In an 11-2 loss, he got an assist as well. I thought he played incredible. And one of my favorite underrated OHL players this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Winnipeg.
2 after.
77. Winnipeg's take Brad Lambert, who I was super excited about, and Danny Zukin. So maybe Winnipeg's my new favorite Canadian team. Golf Storm player, we alluded to him earlier. Matthew Poitras was taken ahead of him. And Danny Zukin here, who I think could be one of the better two-way players, two-way centers in the future.
Yes.
Gets selected at 77. I think it's a huge steal.
Yeah, this is
steal of the draft for me so far, especially way down here. His numbers don't jump off the board at you, but he's not a sniper. He's just a really good centerman, right? Specifically, he plays the whole ice well. He's able. Something that separates him and Matthew Poitras is the elite decision making and changing of what he does in the offensive zone.
Attacking on the rush.
Yeah, attacking on the rush.
Creates
cycling.
Space.
He creates space for himself very well. I think that separates him from Matthew Poitras. He hasn't shown the ability to do that yet.
Poitras does not have the elite offensive skill that Danny Zilkin brings. And they were on the same team. Danny Zilkin was the first line center.
He was the top line center.
And I think he played with Sasha Pastujov.
Yeah.
Who
is a liability on defense.
Biggest defensive liability you're going to find. Plays zero defense. He will stand at the center line and just wait there. And Danny Zilkin's role playing on the line with him was to back check harder.
Was to make up for that.
Yeah, and I think that maybe teams that scouted Guelph only saw him maybe just as a two-way D because of that, and he wasn't able to maybe showcase more because Sasha Pastujov, by all means, he is a very skilled guy.
Highly skilled for him.
Was just taking all the skill opportunities from him, and I think we didn't get to see enough of Danny Zilkin. That's one of the things I see from a lot of scouts that they say they wanted more from Zilkin that they didn't get to see. I think that
might be
it just got taken away from him. So
see what he does next year. Yeah. He's still under the age for Guelph Storm. He will probably play for them next year, I'm assuming. But yeah. I don't really have much about this player, but yeah, 80. I don't know anything about him.
This is crazy. He was already selected. What are you telling me?
Elias Pettersson, again selected by the Vancouver Canucks.
I think this is
cool.
True. I like Elias Pettersson. I think he probably could have gone a full round later.
He's a good forward.
He's a great center.
Yeah.
This one, I think, was just a pick by Vancouver. They definitely do like him, but I think they reached on him because he has the same name in that.
They're trolling.
That's 100%. So
they're gonna have a Elias Pettersson center and Elias Pettersson defenseman. Now they're just looking for the goalie. So if your name is Elias Pettersson and you're a goalie, look out.
Yeah,
Vancouver Canucks are gonna be at your next game.
And if you're a very, very mediocre hockey player, change your name to Elias Pettersson. Maybe Vancouver will take a shot on you.
Maybe they'll just draft you. Why didn't Jack Hughes get drafted by New Jersey? That's the bigger question.
Oh my god, I know, right? That would have been hilarious. 2 Jack Hughes on the same team.
And centers.
That's fine. Anyway, Jack Hughes at center.
Who do you want to talk about?
87, Thomas Hamara. I love this pick. The Czech playing in Finland. He was going up on everybody's rankings towards the end of the season. I don't know why he didn't go in the second round. I like this pick. Got some serious offensive upside. I think Ottawa could use another D. I like this.
Nice. Michael Buchinger, I want to talk about briefly. He goes to St. Louis Blues. I think he has one of the difference between his ceiling and his floor is probably one of the biggest in the draft.
Oh, huge.
I think he could be a very good offensive, puck-carrying, play-driving defenseman. But he could also just be
an ECHL.
An ECHL level talent.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one or the other. He's not going to be a middling defenseman. Very boomer bust pick. The definition of a boomer bust pick. And I'm curious what he's going to do next year. He wasn't even the best defenseman on his team. Nope. That comes next year.
Yeah, he was
outperformed by a guy younger than him.
Yeah. And obviously the Daniel Chaika, right?
Yeah, and one older.
In his age, for players his age and younger, he was not the best D on the team.
No.
So, stick around for the 2023 mock draft we have coming out tomorrow, where I do mention who that defenseman is. Spoiler alert.
We'll skip all the way down here to New York Rangers. Bryce McConnell-Barker. Huge slide.
You know what? I think this is perfect where he belongs. I had Bryce McConnell-Barker late first.
He was my honorable mention in the top 20
I don't like him.
that we did earlier in the year.
I just don't like him. I don't know what it is. I don't see any top 6 potential purely just as a bottom 6 guy. I don't see, sure, there's definitely value in, getting a bottom 6 player in the 3rd round, but I just, compared to some of the other players in the OHL, a lot of people were putting him higher than guys like Zilkin, higher than guys like Goyette, and I just no for me. What you liked him, right?
I didn't mind him at the start of the year, but he definitely, like you said, I wanted to see more from this guy. And
part of it, maybe the OHL having not played last season.
Yes,
you come into this year with these unrealistic expectations of players, thinking, yeah, he's going to be a first-round pick, and like you haven't seen this kid play in a year and a half. Like he needs, a full season before, and I think the OHL is probably the greatest like shift in rankings because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The next pick, speaking of OHL guys who are a little disappointing for us, and I think surprising that he went to the Islanders specifically, is Isaiah George of the London Knights. Ugh.
I will start with what I do enjoy about him.
Yeah.
East-west mobility.
Yeah.
In the offensive zone, pinching in the offensive zone to keep the puck alive. I like he is very active, keeping his feet moving. But he's not fast.
He's so frustrating to watch.
It's good mobility, but lacks speed, which is, back checking. He got beat too much, and it was awful. And then that's only the kind of bad part. The real bad part was his in the defensive zone with the puck. He was not responsible with it.
No.
I watched him. We watched him. We have, our video of the Guelph Storm versus London Knights on November 7th or 8th.
Yeah, we made a little vlog on it.
Danny Zilkin forces the turnover in the offensive zone forces the turnover. Isaiah George just flops on it and hands it to him in the slot. And it was one of the worst defensive cues I've seen. And then at the CHL Prospects game,
he does the exact same thing.
It gets and then does it like again 5 minutes later, and I just completely that was it. If we were gonna make a scouting report on OHL players, I'd start with why you shouldn't draft Isaiah George, and it's just maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year he figures it out. What was I gonna say? If you're a Leaf fan and you're watching this video, the best comparable I can make to Isaiah George is when Travis Dermott is bad, and at least fans know this, that like kind of just frustrating, Dermott, what are you doing? You could be so much better. That's Isaiah George to me. And no other comparison to Travis Dermott other than the way that at least fans will know what I'm talking about when I say that.
Type in Travis Dermott turnover, Jake Gardiner turnover. You know what I'm talking about.
Same kind of deal. That's kind of what Isaiah George is right now, and I didn't watch a good game from him. Yeah, really.
And it's every game we watched wasn't the good game, and that's just so frustrating to see.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from him.
Out of the Kamloops Blazers at 106th, Mats Lindgren. I like Mats Lindgren. I am really surprised he fell. I guess teams see something that they don't like in him. I thought Kamloops was all right. I thought he was all right. Good, both ends.
Yeah, I
Buffalo
definitely fell a little bit.
Steal for Buffalo, in my opinion. I think that
until we're now into the fourth round. So this is kind of in the draft when teams start to really focus in on their guys,
and you get to see where their scouting systems like focus really is.
Yeah, and Mats Lindgren dropped down. I just wanted to mention real quick Tyler Brennan, 102. First Canadian goalie that was picked.
Oh, yeah.
Just thought I'd mention him briefly. That's cool. New Jersey Devil system. Do you want to talk about these two Russians?
Yes. Yeah. Kirill Dolzenkov. Oh, scary. Size and speed. You do not get this combination often. He can move. He is quick with his feet. And strength. 6'6" or 6'7", and he is not lanky. He will pick up and toss strong players. You think he ragdolls people. It's like watching Chara out there. Not exactly, of course. Chara's a monster, but comparable in the junior league. It looks like Chara out there, and he's a forward. He plays both center and wing. You'll see him mostly called a winger, but he can absolutely play center. But great, 6'6", and he is only a bottom six guy. Got zero offensive skills at all. And it's hilarious watching him play in the defensive zone. He reads the cycle, incredible. Uses his giant 6'7" frame, blocks shots, uses his long reach. I was reaching out here. Uses his long reach to reach and block passing lanes, block shots. Incredible forward in his own zone, top of the circle, making it work. Great mobility. And then he touches the puck, and you're like, oh, he just nothing, nothing, zero offensive skills. Really, he's not great with the stick. So,
yeah,
Columbus, you're getting a bottom six, probably winger because he can be really tough in the corners, maybe a center because he's very strong on the faceoff, but one of the best defensive forwards in the entire draft and one of the worst offensive forwards in the entire draft. So I had him ranked at 99 because you can't go in the first 2 rounds, but for his skills. But
why not here?
I still do like him.
Good pick here for this part of the draft.
And at 110, we have Daniel Orlov, one of the best skaters I've seen out of Russia. His edge work. He accelerates in turns, and in all 3 zones, he uses that to beat opposing forecheckers while carrying the puck. In his own zone from behind the net, he'll skate around guys with the puck on his edges, gain acceleration like that through the neutral zone into the offensive zone. All 3 zones, great skating, but just overall doesn't have the top end skills, doesn't have the top end skate of speed. A lot more to work on. Maybe next year we'll see if he can take that next jump. He'll be a steal, but I think this is a really good, just middling.
Yeah. We'll move on all the way to Arseny Koromyslov.
Arseny Koromyslov. I could talk about Sergei Murashov, but I don't want to. Arseny Koromyslov, another defensive defenseman. Amazing puck skills. It's hilarious because these puck skills don't translate into the offensive zone. I don't know what it is. The puck lands on his stick in the offensive zone. He goes, and just flings it on net. and it's really funny to watch because alternatively, in the defensive zone, you give him the puck and he's a magician. He'll use his body to, keep opposing forecheckers off the puck, and he'll do spinoramas, he'll pass laterally, he'll pass north-south off the boards behind him, crazy things with the puck in the defensive zone, and then he touches it in the offensive zone, and it's just gone, which is hilarious. I think he didn't, you look at the points, 19 points in 42 games, that's, it's not crazy offensive production. I think if he can translate those puck skills to the offensive zone, absolutely great, huge pick, but I don't know, I think of just a bottom pair guy in the end. I don't see him reaching, just a solid. Nice. Yeah, that's it.
A guy that I liked, actually, that fell quite a bit, right here at 123 all the way, Tucker Robertson, Peterborough Pete's. Very high, he's highly offensive. He had 41 goals, 40 assists, 68 games. That's very, very good for a forward in the OHL. Very one-dimensional, very offensive, but I think is a good little project here for Seattle's development system. And, could be pretty good in a few years. I just wanted to briefly breeze over him. Cruz Lucius, brother Chaz Lucius.
Best names.
Yeah, some of the best names in the draft. Also wanted to mention him. Not as good as his brother, who went fairly high last year, but does get drafted, which is very cool. What was it? Cameron Whitehead, USHL. One of the better American goaltenders for the Vegas Golden Knights. They need goaltending prospects. That's not a bad pick for them.
Toronto pick, 135. Nikita Grebyankin. He is an above-ager, but he played about half the time. He played his time in the KHL as well, but in the juniors, in the MHL, he played on the same team as Daniela Yurov. Went 24th to Minnesota. If you watch my scouting report on Daniela Yurov, you occasionally get to see Grebyankin on there. Played really well. Complements elite talent like a guy like Daniela Yurov really well. I think in Toronto, he's a little bit of a risk, at fifth round pick, but maybe one day he slides into a top 6 winger role. Who knows?
Nice. Yeah. And just a name that I recognize, and this has nothing to do with anything. Jake Furlong. Is a guy that I always draft in Franchise Hockey Manager because he ends up pretty good. Just a little fun fact. You ever played that game?
Jorian Donovan or
Recognize
Jorian Donovan? Ottawa at 136. I thought that was a guy who fell a lot. Donovan's a guy I saw some people's lists in the 60 to 90 range. As an Ottawa fan, I'm pretty happy that they picked him up here.
Yeah. Sergei Ivanov, goaltender. I thought would have been the top Russian goaltender picked. Not the case, but is actually picked here at 138 for Columbus.
And I like his just
good track record with Russian goalies.
Yeah, he's Ivanov is the goalie. He's forget the name. Florida last year drafted Arseny Gerasimyak, the goaltender. Might be off on that one, but they did. Out of SKA 1946, so he's a year older than Sergei Ivanov. But this year, at the end of the season, Ivanov took his starting goalie position role, and then in the playoffs was the starting goaltender and won them the Kharlamov Cup, which is the playoff the playoff trophy for the Russian Junior League. So he stepped up and outperformed a goalie a full year older than him. I thought it was really impressive. I think he's a very, very, very focused goaltender, but it's hard to look. They all kind of look bad at this age.
Yeah, goaltending's tough to pinpoint. Breeze over Matt Maggio. Watched a couple of his games this year for the Windsor Spitfires. He might be a sneaky good pick here for the Islanders in round 5. Another
Otto Salin, I thought, is a guy. Otto Salin, yeah. Another defenseman out of Finland, just like Thomas Hamara, that people had him, all throughout the season, was going up and up and up, and I'm surprised that he fell. But yeah, on to Jake Carabella.
Yeah, Jake Carabella, another Guelph Storm, had a really good end to his year. Had, at least for the way he was skating, the way he was playing on the ice. The beginning of the year wasn't great. Had a really good prospects game. I think it could be a good value pick here in the 5th round. Washington.
Yeah.
Good system there.
Yeah, I'd personally rank Carabella in 70 to 80.
Yeah, maybe a little higher, yeah. And slips into the 150 range.
He lacks certain skills compared to his teammates, teammate Danny Zilkin and line mate Matthew Poitras. He's the left winger for Matthew Poitras. Away from the puck, mental game, hockey IQ, I'd give it to Carabella. Probably the best forechecker I've seen in the entire draft. In that, when the opposing team has the puck in their defensive zone, Carabella will force a turnover. Sometimes the top end skills. Why only has 12 goals in 68 games. He's not a crazy shot. Not a super puck handling Pavel Datsyuk.
No, you want a guy with a good motor that has some decent offensive upside.
Kind of reminds me of a guy like Zach Hyman. He reads the game so well. Is always good putting in a full effort, and I like him there.
We'll talk about Vladimir Grudinin.
We talked about Carolina keeping your ears and eyes open for them selecting Russians, and the third Russian they've selected, and the third that I have a scouting report on. Go check out my scouting report on Vladimir Grudinin, and this
is my biggest miss.
What? Wow.
I thought the NHL was way higher on this kid than he ended up.
No sense to me. Vladimir Grudinin, if he plays on the same team as Artyom Duda, who was drafted 35th by the Arizona Coyotes, and Vladimir Grudinin plays higher than him on the roster. He's the first line. He's the top pair D for the CSKA from Krasnaya Armia Moskva, the junior team. He's their number 1 D. And then when he gets called up to the KHL and plays pretty well at the KHL level, Artyom Duda from second pair becomes the top pair, and he doesn't quite perform as well. Artyom Duda really worked well as that second pair guy, less defensive responsibility, more offensive chances. Then Vladimir Grudinin, amazing. Probably the best, most complete defenseman, but he's short.
Yep.
And that's, defensively, he's tight. He will engage physically on the rush. In the defensive zone, he will pin larger, bigger skaters. For 5'10", 5'11", Vladimir Grudinin, he is smaller, but for his size to strength ratio, might be one of the strongest in that sense. And I think this is a huge L for every team that didn't pick him. Big W for Carolina. They got a bona fide second pair D at the NHL level. I don't know how much scoring offensive side potential there is, but defensively he was absolutely shut down. He will generate offense. He's a great puck carrying D. He just doesn't have that like killer instinct in the offensive zone to score like Artem Duda does. And that's it.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay gets one of my favorite late round goalies, because of course they did, because they're freaking Tampa. Nick Malik, son of Merrick Malik. I really, really liked his game, and he played 2 games in the World Juniors, and I'll asterisk this because it was a crazy World Junior tournament. He played really, really well, stood on his head. I can't actually remember if he won both of his games, but all I remember is, wow, this Malik kid is good. And then I found it was Merrick Malik's son, and I'm like, oh, that's neat. At a .922 save percentage in Liga this year, 33 games. I think one of the better picks at this stage of the draft for goalies.
Yeah, I'm not the goalie scout between us, and just looking at that save percentage and goals against average at the Liga,
that's a
pretty good number.
I think very, very good pick here from Tampa Bay. Of course, it was Tampa.
Like I'm not going to pretend to know Samuel Jansson, the Swedish goalie who's selected 2 above, but just comparing raw stats, that's Liga stats, 922, and then J20, that's a junior league, 883. Those are incredible, just pure stats for a goaltender. Wow.
Yeah, really big fan of him. Excited to see what he's going to do. Who else we got?
We're starting to get into the way late rounds, but I like Reed Dick.
Oh yeah, Reed Dick. There he is. WHL goalie, big goalie. 884 save percentage, but that's WHL. All the goalies in WHL have under 900 save percentages, especially at this age.
It was really his play in the CHL prospects
That's what got
game.
him drafted. 1,000,000%. That performance got him drafted.
He stood on his head.
Stood on his head, played really, really well. I didn't have a lot of problems with his game. Boston gets him here. Could be a decent player in a few years. We'll see.
2 picks later, Servac Petrovsky. I really like Petrovsky's game. Every time he touches the puck, he makes something happen. Great playmaker. I'm really surprised he dropped this far. I know on some lists he was 1 or 2 after Vinzen's Rohrer, another European playing in the OHL on the wing. Petrovsky got time at center sometimes. I see all the skill. He played here in Ontario, and I don't understand how he fell this far. I love
definitely dropped a little further than I was expecting to.
I do see at the World Juniors compared to the other first year draft eligibles, he underperformed a little bit, but in the OHL level, I thought he was pretty good. So maybe they thought they saw something, but I don't know. I didn't see it. I liked him.
Want to talk about Yevseyevs?
190. Nikita Yevseyev does not have any serious upside, but he is just, the way he reads the game and the pace that he reads the game is probably the highest among any defenseman in Russia this year. He got to play, we see his VHL stats here, 37 games, 5 points, not great, but when he went back to the MHL, he was scoring incredible amounts. Because despite not having the offensive upside, he was just so good that he could not score. He was so smart defensively, he's on the puck first, didn't have to he never had that top end elite skill and never needed it. I had him going to Toronto because the Irbiz Kazan or Bars Kazan team that he comes from, Toronto has 2 goalies. Pexa and the other one I forget the name of, but I figured that they'd be watching their own goaltender, they'd be watching a defenseman, and I thought a left shot D with really great defensive sense, who doesn't need to score too much, would have been perfect for Toronto.
Artur Akhtyumov, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the other goal.
Oh, Akhtyumov, yeah,
Akhtyumov,
who was also they're both really, really, really good.
Yeah, so the Leafs like that system.
Yeah.
They drafted a couple guys out of there.
So that's why I had him going to Toronto, but good pick for Edmonton. Another Russian that they've selected.
Yeah, I want to jump down here to 200, to Jackson Edward of the London Knights. We liked him better at times than we liked Isaiah George.
He is probably one of the best defensive defensemen in the OHL.
Yeah.
That's pure defensive defenseman.
Yeah, he's 6 assists in 54 games. He's not offensive. That's not what they used him for. They used him primarily and only in the defensive zone. He did pretty well. Yeah. I liked him, honestly, at times better, just in his skill set.
It wasn't even just defending the cycle, defending the rush. He was able to pin forward wingers against the boards really well. He knew when to pinch. That's really tough to play solid defense as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And pure skills even. Very well. I think there are... He wasn't utilized to score, but I think that there were talents there that he could score.
Yeah, so we'll see what he does going forward.
We're going to go to
I didn't want to mention him.
Artem Barabosha, the right shot D to New Jersey. Yes. Very, very solid, smart defenseman. I watched him probably the most out of any defenseman because there was like a lot of hype for him early in the season. I've probably watched 22 games for this guy. Once. In every single game, I watched him make one mistake in the defensive zone on the cycle. Once. And just a guy got past him and he didn't see him. Although, very, very focused, very responsible defensive D. Lacks foot speed. He's just not quick enough. He gets outsped by guys too frequently, and I don't know if New Jersey's the team to pick to get him up to speed. I think New Jersey can. They picked Simon Nemec, a guy I think is very mobile himself. They've done pretty well. I know PK Subban, all the hate he gets, he is a very mobile, he's a great skater. I think that in New Jersey, they can maybe turn Barabosha into a much better skater, and then they have a solid bottom pair D.
Sorry, I was just looking at a player coming down
the list. Well, don't worry. I can talk about at 205 another Russian selected by Carolina. That's 4. I did not make a scouting report on this one. Alexander Palavin, a little bit smaller, 5'11".
I have him in my second round.
You do have him in your second round. Here. There are people who had him that high because as far as like raw tools, he definitely does have it. Where he excels is his foot speed. He can like drop and get up like a goalie. He can like butterfly, he can like block shot. He's got really quick feet, but sometimes that's also his detriment. He like relies too much on his feet and not positioning in the D zone. I think he'd be a little suspect. He didn't score too much either. There was a lot more offense expected from him that he just didn't produce. And so I see why he dropped. I personally had him at like 150, I think. So,
yeah. Before you get into the next Russian I see there, I just want to mention Dominic DiVincentis really quick, goaltender from the North Bay Battalion of the OHL. Probably one of the only his draft age OHL goalies I would have considered drafting this year. He's got a lot of holes in his game. He's got a lot of work to do. But 207, I think if Winnipeg wanted a goalie in their system, looking in the OHL, this is the guy I would have picked. I just wanted to breeze over him real quick. Kirill Kudryavtsev, beginning of the season was seen as maybe a third-round pick, one of the better guys out of Russia, elected to play in the OHL. He has 2 sides to his defensive game. The first is defending the rush, where he is awful. He gives way too much space to opposing skaters. He lets them walk into the offensive zone. The other side of his defensive game is how he defends the cycle. Amazing. He blocks shots, gets himself into lanes, right tight, strong in the corners. Of all the defensemen I've watched, one of the better ones, but because his defensive game is so 50-50, I see why he dropped so far. But as far as defensemen, he scored a little bit, but the offensive upside isn't there compared to a guy like Artem Duda, even, I don't think. So, 2 more guys I want to talk about in this list. Just because I don't know anything about Caleb Lawrence, and he played 2 games for the OS Sound Attack this year, and nothing else.
Huh.
I don't know anything about him. If you know who Caleb Lawrence is, let us know.
No.
I don't know. He's interesting to me. I saw this, I'm like, wait a minute, that's strange. And then I looked at him. He's 19. He's 6'7".
He is an above-ager.
He's an above-ager, and he's 6'7". He didn't play last year, but in 2019-20, he had 5 goals and 8 points in 39 games.
So went undrafted in 2021. I'm guessing they saw his -1 year and were like, "We'll wait." Maybe he got injured.
I don't know. I don't have the history for him. 215th overall. He's 6'7". Big player. I was immediately intrigued by him, just by his stat line. Be like, what the heck is going on here? And the other guy I wanted to point out is Jack Devine. I don't know why he slipped so far to 221 for Florida. It was a little bit surprising. North America Central Scouting has him ranked 65 among North American skaters. So to have him slip down all the way to almost undrafted, kind of surprised me. But yeah, those are the two remaining guys I wanted to talk about.
For me, it was in the NCAA that he is one of the older players in the draft, but one of the younger players in the college system.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Like, the NCAA is really
No
good.
joke.
This is the top level of American junior hockey. It's hard.
No jokes.
This is, and University of Denver, their competition is tough too. And so I think Jack Hughes gets the same kind of heat where they can't look good. So it's hard for their draft ranking to go up. I'm glad he got drafted because this is so late. He almost didn't.
Yeah, he almost didn't get drafted.
Which is, like, insane to me because he definitely played good enough too. But I thought it was on the case of Jack Hughes, he performed probably the best at the NHL Draft Combine.
Oh, yeah.
He, like, physical strength, like, those grip strength and stuff, he blew everybody else out of the water. Like, so there's something, I don't get why they both fell, but more so Jack Devine, but that's a scary one for me. I don't know. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah,
That's
good pick to, one of the last picks in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's the next, Patrick Hornquist.
Mm-hmm.
Does, as the last pick in the draft and goes, hey, wait a second. Chinese goalie gets picked last pick in the draft. Speaking of last pick, Chinese goalie Ivan Zigulov.
He's Belarusian.
Oh, sorry, Belarusian.
That's
my God. Belarusian goalie Ivan Zigulov. As soon as I said his name, I was like, that's right. That's wrong, Ryan's
a little bit blind.
Sherbrooke Phoenix goaltender and the QMJHL 892 save percentage is the last pick in the draft. That's just why I wanted to highlight him. I got lost in the sauce. But yeah, Belarusian goaltender out of the Canadian Junior Leagues. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. So I think that there's some big wins, some big losses. I hated what Arizona did out of Russia. I really liked what Carolina did out of Russia.
Yeah, I think my favorite drafts, I'll be a Leaf homer. I'll say the Leafs. Minnesota, getting a bunch of good guys. And I'll say Winnipeg for taking both Brad Lambert and Danny Zilkin.
Yep. Danny Zilkin.
And big shout out to the Detroit Red Wings scouting staff again for drafting Dmitry Bachelnikov.
He was the first above-age Russian, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Which, I think I mentioned at the time, there is a really good above-age draft class from, like, last year. That's and he performed. I really like him. He's probably my favorite personally. Friend of the channel, Dmitry Bachelnikov. Get your Grand Rapids Griffins Bachelnikov jerseys. Get ready to go buy him because he's going to be a star.
He's going to be close by. We can go see him.
Right? We're going to go when he comes to play the Marlies.
We can go to Grand Rapids. Oh, yeah.
You know what? Spoiler alert for those of you who made it this far in the video. Stick around and you get to see us post a video from the AHL game where we get to go cheer on Dmitry Bachelnikov.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it for the 2022 NHL Draft. We now start the 2023 draft.
Mm-hmm.
First day of the next season for us starts very soon. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. It was a 2-hour video almost. Holy hell. We just kind of kept going and kind of treated this like a podcast. So if you do want to listen to it, that's awesome.
If you just
wanted to listen to the top 10 or cycled through, appreciate you guys being here either way. Your 2023 draft rankings come out tomorrow. Initial top 50.
Mm-hmm. Right? Top 50 for the 2023 NHL Entry Draft. Just under a year away, which means we are that close to the next draft. I hope you're excited as I am.
Yep. Yes. More hockey players to watch.
This is Christmas for us. Our mock draft is like the wish list we send to Santa Claus, and this is us getting the gifts. Yeah. So I'm ready for Christmas next year. I'm already in Christmas mode. I'm
already in Christmas mode. Yeah, we're still going on the channel for the next few weeks here. We'll do a lot of a little bit more in depth on certain teams. I want to do a Leaf video. I'm sure you want to do a Sens video on what the guys did. Maybe some other teams. If you made it this far and you want a breakdown of what your team drafted and its prospects, let us know.
Yeah, comment and we'll make the video for you.
We'll make videos. Like, hey, I'd really like to see a breakdown of all the Philadelphia Flyers picks. Sure, we'll do that. No problem. Let us know that you want that. And this is fun.
It for us. We're Dopamon. We're two awesome people, best friends. We love to talk hockey news, analysis, trade speculation, mock drafts, scouting reports, playoff coverage, international coverage, or the live streams of some games. We talk all sorts of hockey. So
we'll do the World Juniors in a couple months.
Oh yeah.
We'll do the World Juniors again a couple months later. We'll do all the international stuff as much as we can. We like talking hockey on the channel, so it's
stick around.
Just what we like to do. So stick around for more of that.
Dope hockey content if you're into that. If you like hockey and you like dope hockey content, you like scouting reports, you like the draft, you like us, you like the players that we scouted, stick around, like and subscribe, leave a comment. We're Dopamon. Peace.
Peace out.